Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the status quo right now, we see that a lot of citizens or people are voting with unclear reasons, right? For example, they are voting randomly. They don't know which kind of person they are voting for or what kind of programs they are campaigning. They are easily swayed with people who have different opinions or ideologies, right? We believe that in the status quo right now, there exists two problems. Number one, people are not knowledgeable enough regarding general political matters. And number two, these kind of people who already have that kind of knowledge, for example, experts or educated people, are not sharing this kind of knowledge with most people or most citizens, right? We believe that these issues are very urgent to solve because voting is the biggest form of social participation that actually can change the future and the looks of a certain country, right? Our goal here is simple. We want these kind of individuals to actually have more knowledgeable voting, right? This means that number one, they have an objective decision making. Number two, they know all the facts. And number three, they are choosing their kind of like elected person based on credible sources and not gossips or rumors, right? What we want is that we want these citizens to actually pass a political general knowledge test in order for them to actually vote for presidents or parliaments or so on and so forth, right? Several pieces of mechanism. Number one, these people can only do this kind of test that happens every election year, right? So for example, if you vote for, if you want to vote for the president this year, you need to take it now. And then if you fail, you can actually take the test, for example, 5 years or 3 years from now, right? Number two, these people have unlimited chances to actually take the test, right? So if you fail your first time, you can still join the test, like for example, in the next 5 years. Number three, these people can actually study for a few months to actually prepare for this kind of test, right? Number four, we want this kind of test to be organized by a neutral party or a neutral organization to actually manage this kind of handling, right? Number five, these people are the people who are allowed to actually do this kind of test are people that are within the voting age and can actually apply for this kind of test, right? Okay, moving on to several definitions. By what we mean by individuals are all the citizens that are able to actually vote, and what we mean by political general knowledge test is that we want the test to be covering basic democracy principles or ideologies. For example, if you're voting for a legislative party, that means that you need to have a test that actually caters or gives information or questions towards all the parties that are available for the election. If you are voting for a president, for example, you have questions regarding all the candidates and their programs, so on and so forth, right? I'm going to bring you three things. Number one, why then do we need this kind of standardized political knowledge? Number two, why then it's okay to actually take over the right of these people for voting instantaneously? And number three, how then you can actually have better benefits on our side, right? Moving on to my first argument, we believe that this kind of standardized political knowledge is very much needed because it is crucial for the real democracies to survive, right? The parallel example to any kind of standardized knowledge is, for example, education system, right? Our schools. We need this kind of standardization that happens in schools because in schools it is very knowledge is very crucial for you to actually survive, right? For example, if you fail a test, the teachers will tell you to do it again. This shows that this kind of knowledge is actually indispensable in shaping you as a person or securing your future, right? This is actually something that clearly happens in the political system or in the democracy system, right? We need a clear parameter or a standardized knowledge because it is crucial for this kind of real democracy to survive, right? What is currently happening in the status quo is not enough because exposure or just simple education regarding these matters is not enough to actually know the extent of how then everyone is suddenly so informed and so educated and within this kind of political matters, right? We believe that it's actually very important to have this kind of clear parameter because it involves far-reaching consequences, right? We don't want this kind of voting to actually ruin fail these kind of communities involved within the entire country, right? For example, when you vote, the outcome of this kind of voting, it's determining so many survivability of so many stakeholders, right? For example, marginalized communities or people who are living below the poverty line. So we believe that only when you have a standardized political knowledge, that's when you can actually make sure that your vote is actually very informative and based on real credible sources, right? Okay, second argument is then why it's okay to actually take over the rights of others, right? We believe that it is the rights of others to actually vote instantaneously, right? We believe that it is actually something that is very much okay because when you don't actually have this kind of test in the status quo right now, you are harming other people indirectly, right? Because you are complicit in actually putting the wrong people in charge, right? Because you are voting for a certain person who is, for example, not having the best policies or having not the best programs, right? We believe that this is actually something that's very important because it is your responsibility as a citizen to actually know the extent of how many consequences that you can actually have when you vote for this kind of person, right? The comparative is this: when you actually have this kind of test, you are being more knowledgeable. You are not harming others because you know and you make a fully informed decision, right? The parallel example to this is when you have a driver's license, right? We are taking away your right to actually drive freely because we don't want you to harm others. The same principle happens here, right? We are taking away your right because we don't want you to actually harm this kind of people, right? We believe that it is still very important, even in the best case scenario, when in the status quo right now, you are still voting objectively without this kind of test, right? We believe that it is still bad because then there will be no check and balance, right? Because you as, like, for example, citizens are unable to review these kind of people's policies, these kind of presidential decision, for example. So we believe that it's still actually very important for you to have this kind of test to actually determine your voting rights, right? The third thing is about all the benefits that can happen on our side, right? The first benefit is that when you have actually a test, it pushes you to be more analytical and objective within your understanding within voting, right? For example, you will analyze so many policies, you will assess these kind of programs, you will base your decisions on facts and data, right? This solves our first problem of having more knowledgeable people, right? The comparative is that in the status quo right now, people are voting based on rhetorics and narratives, right? For example, you see a lot of American people, they voted for Trump because of his narrative of making America great again, right? This kind of narrative and rhetorics is making people easily influenced, right? And it affects their mentality to actually vote properly for these people, right? We believe that this is very bad because you should not vote based on, like, for example, discerned promotional advertisement coming from candidates themselves, but also from the hard facts and also the numbers that is actually happening, right? And also, we believe that it is the second harm is about polarization, right? We believe that this actually solves the second problem because this actually determines your ability to judge the other people's opinions, right, regarding certain political issues. We believe that it is very much important because when you have polarization in the status quo right now, it's very hard for you to actually solve this kind of thing because people aren't listening, right, to each other. But when the comparative on our side is that when you actually have this kind of test, you are forced to actually learn about all of these kind of different ideologies or different people. So we believe that we can tackle polarization and unite this kind of different opinions better on our side, right? What have we told you? Number one, we have told you why a standardized test is so important. And number two, we have told you how then better benefits can exist on our side. Very proud to propose. Thank you.